7. You know, there are many special moments in American sports history, but here at Motor Week, it's not baseball or football history that we chronicle, but motorsports history. And our resident racing historian is none other than High Road reporter Craig Singhas. Well, this week, Craig takes us back to a very special day for America, 24 hours in which an American car company with an American driving team took on the world and won.
Like Mark McGwire's bat or Muhammad Ali's boxing gloves, this piece of American sports history has transitioned from an assemblage of equipment to an icon. This race car represents the first and only all-American win at Le Mans. An American-built car with two American racing legends at the wheel, this car won the 24 Hours of Le Mans in June of 1967. With as many race cars as I've seen, and believe me, in 20 years of Motor Week, I've seen a lot of race cars. I'm always awed when I'm in the presence of this one.
This car is a 1967 Ford Mark IV. It's one of the most significant American racing cars in existence. It won the Le Mans race, 24-hour race in 1967, and it was driven by two of America's greatest hero drivers, Dan Gurney and A.J. Foyt. This is one of the most original historic race cars that you're going to find, primarily because the car ran only one race, the 67 Le Mans race. It was retired after that. Very little was done to it. The front clip was repainted a couple of times. The original race engine was taken out and tested on a dyno. But beyond that, this is pretty much the way the car was when they drove it into the winner's circle at the end of the race. One of the things you'll notice if you get up close to this car is there are cracks on the body. And on one of the rear fenders, this kind of series of circular cracks. And I'm pretty sure that's where somebody sat down real hard as they were going to the winner's circle. People were piling all over the car. And I think that's where somebody's bottom sat down on that fiberglass and made a crack.
This car is an amazing combination of space-age technology and production car pieces.
This was a very sophisticated car for its day. The chassis is made out of what they call an aluminum honeycomb. It's kind of a sandwich made out of aluminum that was derived from aircraft practice. The joints in that are actually glued together, and then they're later reinforced with rivets. The car went through extensive wind tunnel testing. The result was a car that cost Ford Motor Company a bundle of money, but it was a state-of-the-art car in 1967.
Ironically, some parts, such as the rearview mirror and the headlight buckets, are right off the dealership parts shelf. And the taillights? Well, they're rumored to be Chevrolet Corvair pieces. And those humble taillights are what most competitors saw throughout the race.
The odd thing about it is this was the Ford that everybody figured would not finish the race. A.J. Foyt was one of the drivers, never been to Le Mans before. Dan Gurney was the other driver, great driver, history of hard luck. Between them, everybody was sure that this car would go out, take the lead early, and break. Instead, other Fords broke, other Fords were eliminated in accidents, other Fords had the bodywork fly off. This car took the lead, ran like a train. Foyt and Gurney swapped drivers, never had any problems, won by 32 miles.
The car was then retired to a national victory tour, never to race again. Eventually, it found its way to a permanent home, on display at Dearborn, Michigan's Henry Ford Museum in Greenfield Village, only blocks from where it was built.
I was in college when this car won Le Mans, and it was a huge thrill to me because I'd followed the development of these cars, and I was a big fan of Dan Gurney and A.J. Foyt, and so Ford and my drivers win Le Mans. It was just dynamite. Many, many years later, I find myself the curator at Henry Ford Museum in Greenfield Village. I find this car in my collection, and I got to tell you, I get a thrill just every time I see this car, every time I walk by it.